Hello, everyone in the chess world. So I'm going to continue today with the section of crazy, unusual openings. And today we're going to see one of the most ridiculous ones, or the most unusual ones, which is the George's defense, sorry, which will be basically e4, and with black will play a6. So yeah, it doesn't get more ridiculous than that, right? Okay, so brief history. Normally the idea is, and what we usually see is d4, b5. This will be like the setup. So the only time in the history where this opening gained some popularity was, I think it was during the 80s, maybe 81. Tony Miles beat Anatoly Karpov with this line. So I don't think it was the responsibility of the opening, probably a consequence of further mistakes by Anatoly, but okay. And well, anyway, there are some things to be said about this opening. So, first of all, I don't know if some of you are aware of the Nimzowitch opening, which will be not the Nimzo Indian, the Nimzowitch. So it will be like this: fianchettoing the light square bishop on the opening against normal white setup, e4 and d4. And well, if you know this, which I don't know, normally we'll see the main idea is this: black plays like this, and after knight on f3. Bishop on b4, pinning this knight, putting pressure here, stuff like that. So if you know that, well, you can think about this St. George's opening as something similar, but a little different. We do the same thing. Maybe we can always fianchetto this bishop, and if we want, we can continue with e6, and we'll have some ideas as in the Nimzowitch defense. We can say that now that we've gained more space on the queen side, at the same time we're more kind of, weakened against the possibility of a4, giving contact on that side. Well, if the knight now goes to c3, well, then maybe we don't need e6 and bishop b4 to pressure the knight, and then with our bishop on b7, pressure this pawn here. Well, we'll always have this b4, it's not so crazy. Now, one first thing that I want to remember you all, this is important. In this position, if you play the St. George's, okay, e4, a6, they play d4. This will happen most often. Okay, nobody's pointing a gun into your head, telling you, play b5 or I'll kill you. So don't forget that. You can always be flexible. I quite often play this, and here I play just g6. And speculation maybe is one of the ideas. According to what white plays, we're going to try to we're going to play differently. a6 might be a useful move. And again, for example, we'll play, there is this g3 move that was played in a game that I'm going to show you. But let us say that white plays the most natural move. Well, the most natural move, knight c3, now already gives us the information of, well, now probably one day we will want to play b5. We'll have the possibility of b4 attacking the knight and weakening the square. In case they don't, I don't know, they could play whatever after this g6. They could even play c4, and it'll be like a King's Indian with his pawn on a6. That is possible. They might play a4 to stop b5, but you get the point. You can wait to see what white does and then play. But okay, let us go to the main line that I wanted to show you. Here I'm going to show you the main line, knight on f3, which is also the most natural move. I'm not going to show you a4, which is an attempt to refute black's opening, quite early in the game, played by a lot of plays. I already analyzed this in another video. I'll leave a link on the description, but I'll show you just as a little teaser for you to go to see that. The main thing that I really like in this line was, well, in these situations, you see, white won't take our b pawn because we are also pressuring the e pawn, and knight on d2. Again, remember what we said. If knight c3, of course, we have b4. So they will protect it from here, and after knight on f6 and bishop on d3, solidifying this. Well, it started to look ugly, but I really like this resource of the computer that showed me c5. So what is the idea? And if pawn takes, knight on e6. Quite creative. Okay, I analyzed that line in this other video, but let us go back, and instead of a4, we're going to suggest more normal knight on f3. So here, of course, bishop on b7, attacking the e pawn. Bishop on d3, again, the most natural move. Against e5, this is possible. We might just play e6. And, well, c4, probably something that I will play with white. But we can just capture it and give the check. And let us say knight c3, knight on e7. I mean, white is always better. And yeah, the pawn chain, well, might be a little bit unpleasant for us, not having that big pawn, but I don't know. I mean, this is not a bad position at all. And against more natural bishop on d3. Remember, before going for development or the e6, we can always try to, put pressure on the e-pawn. So now again, knight c3, you cannot do it because we're just going to answer with b4. Knight d2 might be unpleasant because we will like to know what to do with that bishop with white d4. So queen on e2, quite logical. We'll also flirting with the idea of someday, maybe sometimes playing on e5. Now we can just answer with e6. And well, here there are, I mean, almost every development move is possible. Like castles is fine, knight bd2 is fine, even bishop on g5. Let's put up the bishop before and then knight on bd2. They're all fine, but I'd like to, well, let us see this a4 against again this pressure or that white kind of trying to refute black's opening. And here there are options because, yes, we could just play b4. This is interesting. A lot of times, well, I think white will first castle, but typical normal reaction will be to continue someday with c3. But we can also play this interesting c5. This is what I like. And maybe the most natural continuation for white will be to exchange this and then play knight b on d2. I mean, we don't want to play c3, right, and be so passive. I mean, this will give, I mean, we could play just knight c6. I mean, it's complicated. Maybe bishop on e7. It's complicated. It's possible c3. But the point of this is that I wanted to show you this a takes b5. Interesting. And then the exchange of rooks. And now e5. Because now it does look as though white just won a pawn. We have the pressure here on b5, and there's this e5 pawn has been protected by being advanced. But c4, we have this cool move right here, and we'll be fine. I mean, e takes f6 will be our main line, and well, of course we take the bishop. There is this f takes g7 because if we take the queen, they'll win a rook, right? They'll take a rook and make another queen, but we just recapture, and even though after, queen takes e3, we are a pawn down, we can just take that knight. Now, if queen takes bishop, we'll just play bishop takes on d4 and be fine, and after g takes f, well, knight c6, right? And it looks like there is already compensation for the piece. So, I mean, this is quite interesting. Going back after this c4, not e takes. Bishop takes e4 doesn't work either. We can just recapture that. And here even okay, queen takes f6 should be total equality. Maybe we will want to just play bishop takes on f3 next. And I think this is quite a happy position for us. We can even take g takes f6. Why not? I mean, after queen takes pawn, just rook g8. And again, we're a pawn down, but we have, I mean, such a big pressure, right? So this is all fine for black. But let us go again to now to kind of a main feature, right? I wanted to show you this possibility of after d4, g6, and there is one game that I wanted to show you. Just okay, white play in that game, white play g3. You know what we're doing right here, right? We can just play like any modern. Our main idea is bishop on g7 and d6. Then, depending with what white does, maybe we'll just leave this a6 pawn just to be as if it was something that hasn't got anything to do with anything, or well, before a knight on c3 or maybe something like that. We can play b5, stuff like that. But okay, in this game, white played g3 and g5. I like this reaction by black. I don't have the name of the players. I think this is a real game, yeah. But okay, knight c3 came and black just exchanged and played bishop on g7. Bishop on e3 came. I don't know. This is so unusual for me. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's probably a good move, but I think most people will just play c3. They don't want to define that bishop yet. But knight c6 came, interesting, just putting pressure on that pawn. And there's a nice detail here because now white plays c3. And more reason even not to play bishop on e3 the move before, right? If you can play it here. I guess it was just a miscalculation by white. In this position, when white was trying to choose between c3 and bishop on e3, they probably thought bishop on e3, and if knight c6, I'll just play d5. But maybe now just they realize that bishop on f5 is such a strong move, right? Because, yeah, if they take our knight, we'll take the piece, control the pawn, attack the rook, it's like winning a pawn. And after bishop on g2, well, knight on b4. And now we have pressure here. And here, this guy cannot move because of this. Yeah, there's some little sharpness comes around, even in this ridiculous St. George's line. I like that. So white plays e3, but black gave an energetic response, e5. I guess white should just take on e5 right now and admit that the position is equal out of the opening. Well, white, this is a funny thing. I like this. White played d5, and after, knight c on e7, white didn't want to relinquish, equality so easily. And g6, and we are like, what are we doing with black? Well, we keep jumping with the knight and putting pressure on that same pawn, that same like brave pawn. They just did like, this, and this. And bishop on c5 was a move by white. They wanted to, well, it's interesting, right? It is a little bit scary maybe for us, but, black just took it. And after knight takes, and bishop takes, he just play knight on e7. He's totally fine now. He can just castle next move. And here, white made a mistake. Queen on a4 check is a bad move because remember that, well, for the moment, this diagonal is really weak. So after the natural answer, bishop on d7, queen a3 was white's idea, like, well, maybe just to prevent the possibility of playing short castles for black. Well, he's just preventing that. I don't think that we will like to play bishop on f6 first to then protect it. But no, quite simple. Remember, now after bishop on c6, we put, well, an initial pressure here. It is defended, but it's fine. And mostly we're threatening the rook. So white played f3, but now, again, the knight jumping back. I really like this. And, I mean, white just played the natural long castles here. If you play something like, I don't know, where to go with the bishop, right? Which is being threatened. If you go to c5, well, I'm maybe just queen g5 looking at knight on e3 is already a big pressure. I mean, look at development and the weak squares for both sides. Our only con is like our king that is not playing castles right now. Maybe we will play long castles. Maybe we'll just wait it out. But the rest is just very active pieces for us, right? All of these pieces are just beautiful. And going back here, well, long castles was the move in the game, but funny sequence. First, quite smart, quite clever, the player with the black pieces. First, check. And after king b1, well, now we pin it. Now that this rook is not protected by the king anymore. I really like that. And the game forward, well, white is losing this bishop, but they played the only resource not to having to resign right now, which was c4. So after knight takes e6, which came in the game, c5, pinning the knight and, kind of winning it. But, okay, here there are a lot of winning moves, but I really like what black played. This is quite, again, quite professional. I mean, the player with the black pieces has to have been at least international master, right? I mean, he's showing a lot of class. Knight on e4. I mean, this is really pretty tactic, right? I mean, I really like this. He has allowed white to take the queen with check, but he just recaptured. He has everything active. We cannot take the knight, of course, because we will recapture this with check and then take the rook and invade. A knight on h3 was the continuation, but that's after bishop takes on c5. This is already all over. I really like this. He doesn't even bother taking out the knight. He uses it instead. The queen has just two squares. I mean, queen b3 will just receive this all check. And where else to go? Like queen on a5, they'll play check. King c2, we can check again, and this is all over. If now king b1, well, we could just play bishop on d4 and, yeah, throw a bomb over b2. F king c1, we can just play... Well, I mean, we cannot go bishop on e3 immediately because we'll blunder this check and the rook. I mean, we gotta be careful. Maybe we'll win anyway, but we have b6, simply. So now we force the only queen takes, and now bishop on e3 again. This is totally over. So going back, white played b4 in this position, but after, well, I mean, this bishop on d4 is already defined in the game. And, well, that's kind of it, right? There is no defense. So, I mean, I think that was actually the end of the game, right? I mean, it's funny. This knight is taboo always, and well, it's now I'll put it green because it's maybe getting, well, knight checks here, knight checks on d2. Every piece looking at the white king, and I mean, maybe the best thing now you probably have to take the knight, right? Knight c3 check is gonna be too strong. Yeah, and if you take it, checks, yeah, well, I don't know, king c1. Well, actually, we can even play castles here because this rook is trapped. We don't need to take it right now. It's a disaster. So, going back, I will remind you to, if you wonder what happens with a4 here, I just briefly show you the line, but leave you the link on the description to go and see that because there are some pretty lines. So, again, let's try to not be so dogmatic. You know, you can actually play stuff as ridiculously looking as a6 on the first move without necessarily having to be called a troll or something like that, right? I mean, we can actually do that. It's not so terrible. And again, you can always continue with, if you want, with g6 if you don't want to go for such pure St. George's defense as b5. So everything is playable, and well, it was clearly this St. George's opening was going to be, I guess, in the section of crazy unusual opening. So I'll leave, as usual, my cat Citronetta to ask you to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you like the video. And I'll see you next time. And thanks a lot for watching.